Now, the latest ITV News Central with Samina Ali Khan and Bob Warman.
Hello and welcome to ITV News Central. On the programme tonight, the fallout from an alleged Christmas party at Downing Street, while people here followed the rules.
This woman from Coventry missed her mother's last Christmas in a care home. She was following government guidance to stay away from loved ones.
You know, how many more times are they going to have to make a mockery of the public?
1 year on, how has life changed for the world's first person to get the Pfizer vaccine?
People meet me in the street and they say, oh, you know, thank God for you, because I wasn't going to have this job. And it's lovely to hear that, you know.
Also tonight, why are Christmas toys that were deemed unsafe last year still on sale?
Students from 4 schools in Birmingham joined professional musicians for a Christmas charity song.
And with the symphony of sounds that Storm Barra gave us, will my forecast now be music to your ears? Join me later and I'll let you know.
Good evening. People across the Midlands who sacrificed seeing loved ones during lockdown last Christmas say they're disgusted by a leaked Downing Street video. It shows staff laughing about a party allegedly held there last December.
At the time, we were all told to stay home or face big fines, even while COVID was claiming the lives of many. Lockdown rules meant some families weren't able to say goodbye in person. Among them were 2 women from Nottinghamshire and Coventry who say they've been robbed of their final moments with family. Lewis Warner has our top story.
A couple of weeks before Christmas, a country heading for lockdown. A woman from Bilsthorpe not able to see her dying husband, and a Christmas party behind the doors of power.
It's absolutely appalling. I'm absolutely gutted, really.
Anybody have any questions today?
The revelations appearing to show Downing Street staff joking about a Christmas party makes for difficult viewing for those who've suffered.
They think it's funny to not be social distancing and having a large gathering when we couldn't have nothing. We had to go by the rules. And while we were grieving and spending our first Christmas without Charlie on our own.
I've just seen reports on Twitter that there was a Downing Street Christmas party on Friday night. Do you recognise those reports?
The damning footage, obtained exclusively by ITV News, shows the Prime Minister's then advisor in rehearsals for her new job hosting media briefings. In the mock-up, Allegra Stratton faces questions from her colleagues, designed to put her to the test.
It was cheese and wine.
Just be clear, it's not.
Is cheese and wine all right?
No.
It was a business meeting.
I'm joking.
It is recorded. This fictional party was a business meeting. And it was not socially distanced.
This afternoon, the smiles had disappeared as Allegra Stratton resigned from government.
My remarks seemed to make light of the rules that people were doing everything to obey. That was never my intention. I will regret those remarks for the rest of my days, and I offer my profound apologies to all of you at home.
But for some, her resignation isn't enough. Angela Dawn's mother died in a Coventry care home last year. Restrictions meant her family couldn't be by her side. She says if she knew that people in power were flouting the rules, she wouldn't have missed her mother's last Christmas, and thinks those at the very top should take responsibility.
I think Boris Johnson should go. I think, you know, this is not the first time they've made errors during the COVID pandemic. You've got Dominic Cummings, Matt Hancock. You know, how many more times are things going to have to, you know, how many more times are they going to have to make a mockery of the public?
Around the time of the alleged party, students in Nottingham faced fines totalling £26,000 for themselves breaking the rules. Those in Leicester today shared much of the anger.
I feel disappointed. If you make laws, you can't follow the laws. You don't expect people to follow the law. You just have to lead by examples.
Well, it's a bit bad. You know, everybody else can't do it, and then they can do it. I think it's shameful, actually, when we're encouraged to follow the guidelines and the rules, and the majority of people seem to be doing that.
The Prime Minister has agreed to provide the Met Police with any information they need as the force considers whether it should investigate. The Cabinet Secretary will also look into if any COVID rules were broken, but many minds are already made up.
Well, let's cross to Lewis live in our newsroom now for more on this. And Lewis, it's been quite an afternoon and you watched a fiery Prime Minister's questions earlier. What did the government have to say?
Well, throughout the morning, there was silence almost from number 10. All they would say is what they've always said on this matter, that there was no party and the rules have always been followed. But a timely PMQ session gave the PM the opportunity to address that footage aired last night. He didn't apologise for a party taking place, but instead for the distress caused by the staff in that video. He went on to say he'd been repeatedly reassured that there was no party.
I can understand how infuriating it must be to think that the people who have been setting the rules have not been following the rules, Mr. Speaker, because I was also furious to see that clip. And Mr. Speaker, I apologise unreservedly for the offence that it has caused up and down the country.
Well, the Prime Minister has announced there will be an internal investigation, but this is a political Christmas present for Labour Party. Keir Starmer used all of his 6 Commons questions today on the topic during Prime Minister's questions.
The Prime Minister, the government, spent the week telling the British public there was no party. All guidance was followed completely. Millions of people now think the Prime Minister was taking them for fools and that they were lied to. They're right, aren't they?
And Lewis, incredibly, this wasn't the only government Christmas party, apparently.
No, it wasn't. Well, the Department of Education somewhat showing the government how it's done today. At the time, it was led by South Staffordshire MP Gavin Williamson. The department held a Christmas party on December the 10th last year. At that time, London was in Tier 2, preventing social mixing between households and a limit on the number of people who could meet indoors. Today, they've held their hands up, apologised, said they shouldn't have done it. Some clarity, at least, from one government department. So here are the thoughts of some of Mr Williamson's constituents in Cotsall.
I've always been in education myself and didn't like some of the decisions that were made. And I think he made quite a few mistakes then. And I think if he has gone ahead and had a party, that was, very foolish of him and yet another mistake, really.
It's just a bit unfair, really, isn't it? I couldn't see my nan for the whole of last year, but they could have a party. It just doesn't make sense.
Everybody's health is important and they should recognise that. I think it is an absolute disgrace.
Probably it wasn't right in some ways, but having said that, they'd been through a lot, the government had.
It's not the first rule break that we've heard of. It doesn't really give you much faith in the system and in the people that are supposed to be leading us, does it?
Well, often these stories only appear to bother people in the so-called Westminster bubble. I think it's clear tonight that isn't the case with this story. There's been anger felt right across the Midlands, and it isn't the first story and scandal like this that the government has faced in recent times, so the pressure is certainly piling on.
Indeed so. Thank you for that.
And Lewis mentioned anger. There's certainly been a lot of that, and we've been feeling that on our social media channels because you've been getting in touch about this controversial story. So let's hear some of your comments. We'll start with Becky Taylor from Nottinghamshire, who said, "My mum was near her end of life over the Christmas period with lung cancer. It was our last Christmas together and she couldn't have people around because of COVID restrictions."
And Kerry Page from Burton-upon-Trent said they should refund everyone fined for breaking the rules.
Jane Dawes Whitaker said, "Who didn't break the rules? I saw my family for one day."
Rebecca Ashton said, "Honestly, now it's time to look after ourselves and not what the government says. I'm sick and tired of being told what to do."
And finally, Bobby Latham said, "Me and my wife, Kelly Latham, live in Birmingham. My wife's parents live in Cornwall and we didn't get to see them. How does that work?" Well, thank you to everybody who's got in touch, and no doubt that will continue throughout the day.